in the league, homie. Let's speak on it, it's a stretch for anybody to reach on me. Just breathe on it, don't tell them, they gotta know it's me on it. Won't kick it on me and go for 3 on you. You couldn't guard me with the cleanest armor. I got it covered, D's corner. I'm the top dog in the league.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of D's Corner. I'm your host, D, where I got you covered with all of your NFL talk. Today, we're going to talk about the free agency recap. We're going to give the grades. First up, we have the NFC South. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, all the good stuff. I really appreciate it. First, we'll just jump into it. First up, we got the Atlanta Falcons, who we're set to move forward with quarterback Michael Penix Jr. He will be QB1. They still have running back Bijan Robinson, wide receiver Drake London, offensively to build around. But defensively, it seems that the leadership role is going to fall on corner A.J. Terrell. Right now, I believe he seems to be their most experienced player, most veteran player, if you will. They released Grady Jarrett, which was a cap-saving thing. He is older, has dealt with some injuries as well, and this is a mystery, but they've kept Kirk Cousins on the roster. Why? I think because he's going to be traded either during or after the draft. Teams like the Browns or the Giants. Well, the Giants just recently picked up Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, so it's more than likely he won't go there. But I could definitely see the Browns trading for him. And that'll be able to give Raheem Morris some more draft capital either this year or next year, depending on the trade. But the Falcons, the most notable moves they made this year are not very significant. They extended Jake Matthews. They brought back Mike Hughes. They signed Leonard Floyd, who's a Georgia boy. And most likely, this will probably be his last stop. He's kind of like on that higher mercenary terms. And linebacker Divine Diablo, which doesn't really move the needle for him, in my opinion. This team still needs a lot defensively, like I said, especially after releasing Grady Jarrett. That defensive front is definitely going to need fixed. I have to give the Falcons a D. I'm not impressed by any means with their moves this offseason. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints, who was very difficult for them to do much of anything, especially since they went in almost $50 million over the cap limit. So there's going to be some restructurings that need to take place. They had questions about not only the cap space, but this roster in general. It's an older roster with Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, and Demario Davis kind of leading the charge. They re-signed Honey Badger as well, but he's also getting up there in age. Derek Carr has been a question, not sure what they're going to do. It looks like he'll get this season unless, maybe Shador Sanders slides to him in the draft, or they go Jackson Dart or something like that. But this team did not have a lot of wiggle room. Somehow they're still managing to sign players, and the biggest concern for me about the Saints was nobody wanting the job. Not sure if it was the cap situation or what. Not sure if they think you're going to be one and done, because you're not going to be able to truly build this roster, especially this year. And Kellen Moore's coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles. He just won a Super Bowl. It's a cap-strapped team. He's wanting to try to get in the groove of everything that he can as a head coach. They did trade away Marshawn Lattimore last season at the trade deadline. Paulson Adebo they lost in free agency, so they're going to need bodies in the secondary. Chris Olave has dealt with some injuries, especially concussions. How is that going to go? You say they need some wide receivers, and that's also true as well. But their main moves that the Saints made, they re-signed Chase Young. They brought back Jawan Jennings. They traded for defensive lineman Devon Gacho and signed Justin Reed and brought back Brandon Cooks, who was with the Saints before. I'm not sure how these guys keep being able to sign people, but I did give them a C. Um, Chase and Jawan both got 3-year deals. They're still young enough players. You'll see where that goes. Chase knowing the culture and everything, well, both knowing the culture and everything, you still kind of lock up Chase on the opposite of Cam Jordan, so you're not going in needing too many holes or having too many holes on your roster. Even though this team has holes on its roster, I give the Saints a C. Not having that much money, being able to get some decent players. Brandon Cook should be able to come in and give you a speedster. He's still able to be that. He's had 1,000 yards everywhere he's gone except Dallas. Justin Reed is a good pickup. He solidified the Texans secondary and the Chiefs secondary, so you want to believe that he can do the same thing with the New Orleans Saints. And he's from Louisiana. He played at Stanford, but his brothers played at LSU. So his kid's kind of going back home. He's won his Super Bowls, and now it's time to get his money. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are back-to-back NFC South champions. They did make the playoffs. They traded away during the trade deadline, at the trade deadline last season, Carlton Davis. Um, this is a veteran-led team. They have some holes, but you're not sure where the window is um, with this team. They're not roster-wise. They're not the Eagles. They're not fantastic roster-wise like the Commanders. I don't even know that this roster is better than the LA Rams roster, but this team just finds ways to win. Mike Evans, every year he's had 1,000 yards. They were able to bring back Chris Godwin, who's on the coming back from another injury. But Baker Mayfield, Baker is truly leading this team. It seems that he's got all the confidence in the world of this team, and this team has his back. He's in an organization that wants him and playing well. And the NFC South should be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to lose. I give the moves for the offseason for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a B. Bringing back Chris Godwin, bringing back Levante David, you're going to have your veteran core still there. Your culture is still set. You're bringing in Hassan Reddick and linebacker Anthony Walker Jr. Walker's going to be able to play next to Levante David. Hassan Reddick coming off the edge. They do need edge help, but you have Vita Vea in front of you with Kalijah Cansey. You have a solid defense. You still got Antoine Winfield Jr. in the back end. I think it's Jamal Davis, the corner. This team is going to have to probably go secondary. You still have, I believe they also re-signed Sterling Shepard. So for the most part, your core offensively is still together. They're going to need some edge help as well on the defensive side of the ball. But overall, this team didn't have a lot of holes and was able to bring back a lot of their core, not only on the field but in the locker room, that leadership. So I'm going to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a B. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers, who seem to be on the upward trajectory as the season ended last year. Bryce did get benched, but he was able to come back and look somewhat of the player that he was at Alabama. So it looked like he looked more competent as a quarterback. Like things weren't rushed. He was getting the feel for it. So this could be a really good year for Bryce, depending on everything that's put around him through free agency and heading into the draft. Defensively, J.C. Horn and Derek Brown, they're pretty much the cornerstones that they're going to build this defense around. You still have Jadeveon Clowney as well, but there's going to need to be some more firepower brought in defensively, especially if this team wants to be able to truly compete and take advantage of Bryce's rookie deal. I give the Carolina Panthers a C. I like the extension of J.C. Horn. He was the highest paid corner at the time. Free agency moves were very solid, bringing in Treshaun Wharton on the defensive line, Patrick Jones on the edge. Derek Brown and David Clowney should definitely be able to wreak some havoc. They also brought in Bobby Brown from the LA Rams. So they're building up this defensive front. Trayvon Moehrig in the back end is going to pair nicely as a safety for J.C. Horn, or the backside corner. he can play in the slot and was really starting to come along. They brought in Rico Dowdle from the Cowboys. Gonna see if he can replace Miles Sanders, who never really got off the bench, honestly, and he'll be a nice complimentary piece to Chuba Hubbard. They made some decent free agency moves. Like I said, I gave them a C. It's not a strong free agency class, but the Panthers are, like I said, heading in the right direction, and it seems that they are still putting their best foot forward. Next up, we have the NFC West, which has been crazy. You have seen so much turnover in some of these teams that this went from being one of the most physical divisions and one of the best divisions, which now it may not be. It may be the Rams division to lose, but we'll have to see how things have gone this free agency and how they'll go into the draft. But first up, you got the Arizona Cardinals, who are in, like I said, they're in position to battle for the NFC West crown this upcoming season with a strong offseason. The Niners lost a lot. The Seahawks traded away a lot of their offense. And Kyler Murray, it's his time to step up and take a hold of this team and take a hold of this division. Coach Gannon's his third season with this Cards team, and it's time for him and his defense to truly get ramped up. He started being able to add bodies there. He does have a solid defensive front. Could use some linebackers and some rush, but Buda Baker is really the key cog on this defense. Marvin Harrison Jr. Being their wide receiver one. This team can be competitive. They have they're decent position draft wise. They were able to do some in free agency, but with the losses to some of the other teams, the Cardinals could be a playoff team next year. I give them all their moves a C. Their most notable moves, like I said, they re-signed Edge, Baron Browning. They needed Edge help. He was brought in last season from the Broncos, I believe. Pairing him up now with Josh Sweat and Dalvin Tomlinson, with Robinson that they drafted last year from Missouri. This defensive front is looking really, really good, really stout, and they're getting bodies there. Gannon likes to run multiple bodies in on that defensive front to keep his pass rush fresh. This is going to be a good competitive defensive team. If Kyler Murray and this offense is able to get clicking, the Cardinals can be a playoff team. Next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers, and they have had an off season for the ages. They saw Deebo Samuel leave. Fred Warner is the only person that no, I'm sorry, because Nick Bosa is still there, but Fred Warner lost his running mate in Dre Greenlaw. He left in free agency. Hufanga left in free agency. They lost Travarius Ward in free agency. Just about all of their offensive line. Trent Williams is still coming back, but he's older. Robert Saleh is back. So how much did they lose defensively for him to be able to put what he was as the defensive coordinator? So they're going to have to go defensive heavy in this draft, but their offensive line is shaky. They've lost so many pieces in this offensive line, so they're going to have to go to the offensive line as well. So this is going to be, they're closer to a rebuild than they are a reset, and I know John Lynch has said that's what they're doing. Not to mention Brock Purdy has come out that Brock Purdy wants a Dak Prescott-like deal, so he wants to be a high-paid quarterback with $60 million. If that's the case, you're going to have to protect this quarterback. I give them, the San Francisco 49ers, an F for their free agency grade. Their only real move was they released and then re-signed Kyle Juszczyk, and they signed Demarcus Robinson and brought in Mac Jones. None of these are real world beaters. Demarcus Robinson is a solid wide receiver. He stepped up last year when Puka Nacua was down with the Rams and when Cooper Kupp went down. But there's just so many holes on this team, especially with that offensive front. Christian McCaffrey's coming back from injury. We didn't do much to ensure that he will be okay. They could possibly trade him, possibly trade Brandon Ayuk as well. This team is just, like I said, closer to a rebuild than a reset. They definitely are getting an F for their offseason grade. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who this was a 10-win team last year. They traded away their starting quarterback, their starting wide receiver. They lost one of their other starting wide receivers in free agency. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, the weight of Seattle is now going to be on his shoulders as wide receiver one. He was in such a great position last year where he was cooking. Yes, Tyler Lockett is older and he probably did deserve to be released. Trading of DK and Geno was crazy because where you're going to go. You have a defensive minded head coach in Mike McDonald. His now they're what's their plan? What's your plan? Your plan has got to be now running the ball and playing good defense. I don't know why, and would love to have been a fly on the wall in some of them decision making rooms to see why some of these players were let go without a plan. They traded last year for Sam Howell. He's not going to be your QB1. Seattle gets a D during their free agency. Like I said, they saw a lot of players leave, but some of it was self-inflicted. Uh, their best bet to replace some of those players are a aging wide receiver in Cooper Kupp to replace DK Metcalf, and Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba have similar skill sets. Sam Darnold at quarterbacks replacing Geno Smith. Sam Darnold had a hell of a season last year with the Minnesota Vikings. He doesn't have that Minnesota Vikings roster with him. He doesn't have Justin Jefferson. He doesn't have Jordan Addison. He doesn't have a solid offensive line. He doesn't have Aaron Jones in the rushing attack. He doesn't have TJ Hawkinson at tight end. This team had holes up front. They created holes at their quarterback and their skill position. Now, this could have been your year that you're supposed to build off, especially last year being Mike McDonald's rookie year. Then going into this year, it's going to look completely different, and I do not now anticipate the Seattle Seahawks being a playoff team prior to the NFL draft. We'll see what they're able to do there, but with this roster and what they have now, it's going to be a defensive-led roster. They brought in DeMarcus Lawrence, who's going to play on that defensive front with Leonard Williams. They brought back Ernest Jones and Jarran Reed. This is going to be a defensive-minded team that's going to run the ball, and hopefully Sam Darnold is able to play a fraction of what he did with the Minnesota Vikings. Next up, and lastly for the NFC West, we have the LA Rams, who in free agency started off with trade talks possibly with Matthew Stafford. He was able to seek trades. They weren't sure what was going to happen, but they kept faith that they were going to keep him. They also moved on from Cooper Kupp. The Rams had a young, upcoming, hungry defense, and they want to try to maximize Matthew Stafford's ability for as long as they can. Getting rid of Cooper Kupp was more of a production, injury, age thing, as well as cost cutting. Want to be able to try to get as much as possible. He thought or spoke on about even coming back, but they obviously saw something that he's lacking. But this team was one of the most competitive teams last year, and in the playoffs, they played the Philadelphia Eagles the best. Their defense is young, their defense is hungry, their defense is aggressive and can get after you. And that seems to be the way of the NFL now. Young, hungry, aggressive defense, veteran-led offense, get you to the playoffs, get you to the NFC Championship, and maybe things change this year. But barring injuries, the LA Rams, I would say, are third, maybe fourth in the NFC. I give all the moves the Rams have made, I give an A for free agency. Bringing back Matthew Stafford, bringing back Alard Jackson, also bringing in Devontae Adams, who can come in and play that second fiddle to Puka Nacua. Devontae was able to make some plays. He struggled at a bit, but once he got back in his groove, he was good. Matthew Stafford is one hell of a thrower of the football. He still has all the talent in the world throwing the football. I like this pickup. I like these moves. This is going to be a good defense. They added to their defense. They're going to maximize Matthew Stafford. You have a Super Bowl winning head coach who is a genius offensively. I love the moves that the Rams are making. Guys, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. Does you a little, takes a little effort, but it means a lot to me, and I truly appreciate it. Next up, we got the NFC North. where this whole division is topsy turvy now. You have so many different moves, so many different additions, so many different subtractions from coaching staffs, from rosters. There's just a lot going on in the NFC North, which is looking and shaping up to be one of the best and most competitive divisions in all of football. First up, we got the Chicago Bears, who started off their offseason bringing in their new head coach, Ben Johnson. Pairing him with young Caleb Williams should help the second-year star. Williams got sacked a ton last year. Ben Johnson is coming from the Lions, where they had one of the most dominant offensive lines. He is not having that. He's going to beef up the protection around this player so that he can maximize Caleb's extension of plays, his arm talent, his throwing talent, his throwing off platform. Ben Johnson is a very, very, very creative play caller. We've witnessed this the last couple of years with the Detroit Lions. He's also bringing along with him Dennis Allen, who has some head coaching experience but is a really good defensive coordinator. This is pairing to be a really good football team. Defensively, they have the pieces to work with: Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson, both linebackers, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. They have Jawan Brisker as well in the secondary. Offensively, with Caleb Romadunze, they still have DJ Moore. They're probably going to add to this rushing attack. I wouldn't be shocked to see Tyler Warren or possibly Ashton Jinsey if they're there at 10. But this team is going to be a competitive team taking the field in September. I give the Bears an A. They made some moves, trading and getting Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. Jackson played for Ben Johnson in Detroit. They're beefing up that interior. They went in free agency. They signed Drew Dahlman from the Falcons. So your interior line is set with veteran players. You have Darnell Wright, your last year's first round rookie right tackle, who played well. They are in need of a left tackle, which they could possibly get Will Campbell, maybe Kelvin Banks there in position to get younger at that spot in the draft. But when you have Joe Thuney, you have Drew Gallman, you have Jonah Jackson, that interior is good now. Now we're going to be able to run the ball. We're going to be able to protect Caleb, especially from rush up the middle. We saw what happened to Patrick Mahomes, and Caleb, like it or not, that's who people compared him to when he came out. We saw how he was troubled with the rush. Ben Johnson's not going for it this year with the Chicago Bears. He's coming and putting his name and his stamp on this team from the first get-go, and I really, really, really like their moves. I'm ready to see what they do in the draft. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers, who made few moves this offseason. They could still trade Jair Alexander. Offensively, the Packers has a lot of young talent. Some decisions they do face coming sooner than later. Josh Jacobs was an enormous addition to this team. Without Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, Josh Jacobs may have been the second best free agent signing last year, which was extremely well. They lost a few DBs in free agency, but nothing was too strenuous on this team. This team should still be in contention. This team should still be able to compete. We will have to see and get going. It seemed like last year they were hot, they were cold. They were hot, they were cold. We can get them to being more consistent. The Packers should be a playoff team. I give them a B. Signing Aaron Banks away from the San Francisco 49ers and bringing in Nate Hobbs, who can play your second corner or can be your corner one if you're going to trade Jair Alexander. It just gives you some flexibility with this team, especially after losing Eric Stokes to free agency. The Aaron Banks pickup is really, really good because not only are they strengthening their rushing attack, they weakened the San Francisco 49ers because Banks was their starting guard, and now he's coming to a conference rival. These teams have fought it out in the playoffs, but now Green Bay is now wanting to be more of a physical team. Addition of Josh Jacobs last year, you're bringing in Aaron Banks this year. You're going to want to run the ball, and utilize Jordan Love's arm talent off play action. The Packers get a B. Minnesota Vikings, they went 14-2 with Sam Darnold after McCarthy got hurt in free agency. Now, JJ's their future. They're moving forward with JJ. Um, he's going to have a lot of talent around him, a ton of different pass catchers, a good rushing attack, good offensive line with Christian Darrisaw coming back from injury. The core offensively is there. Actually, the core defensively is there as well. But they only have 4 draft picks in the 2025 NFL draft. So I could see this team trading out of the first round to accumulate more picks. But Minnesota is going to try to utilize in that rookie deal to maximize their playoff and possibly Super Bowl window. The one thing I do not like about the Minnesota Vikings offseason so far is the Aaron Rodgers situation because he's set on going to Minnesota. I just don't know if that culture is good enough to deal with him because I have a feeling that that's where he's going to end up. An injury after training camp or something like that. I think that's where he is going to end up. That's where he has his mindset on. And recently their GM just said that he's pretty much not closing the door on it. So Aaron Rodgers can really wait. He doesn't have to sign immediately. But I do give the Minnesota Vikings an A. This offseason seem to have a plan, and they executed it. They started off, they brought back Aaron Jones. They're going to give their young quarterback a rushing attack. Then they added to the offensive line Will Fries at guard and Ryan Kelly at center. So you have a veteran guard, veteran center. You have Christian Darrisaw coming back, a veteran running attack. You have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, a solid tight end, a solid number 2. This offense looks good. They're not going to have to ask a lot of JJ. In college, there wasn't a lot asked of JJ. All he has to do is be efficient, and Kevin O'Connell can call efficient games for this kid. Defensively, they brought back Harrison Smith and Byron Murphy. Most likely, this is Harrison Smith's last year. But what I do like defensively is they beefed up those trenches as well, bringing in Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave from the Commanders and the 49ers, respectively. That defensive front was already able to get after you. Now they're going to be able to stop the run. Brian Flores is going to attack. This team looks on paper to be really good. I like the fact that they had a plan and they followed the plan. Some of these other teams, some of their free agency grades, especially if it's your team, you might not like it. Where's the plan? Here they said they're moving forward with JJ. They did everything to make sure JJ is secure. Outside of the little bit of communication or possibly flirtation, leaving the gate open for Aaron Rodgers. They have not told JJ that he's going to be their guy, but he's looking to be their guy. Lastly, we have the Detroit Lions, who this team had so many injuries last year and was able to overcome a lot, especially defensively. Well, they lost their defensive coordinator and they lost their offensive coordinator. That just the continuity of the play call, down distance, the details of the game, some of that's going to change because you now have new coordinators. How much of it changes? Not sure. How quickly will they be able to gel and get down with possibly new plays on offense, new plays and styles on defense? That could cost you 2-3 games, especially early on, depending on how difficult their schedule is. This team's offense can still be aggressive. They can still be creative. They still have one of the best offensive lines. The culture should still be intact with Dan Campbell. He's going to allow his coaches to coach, which is one thing that I love about him. But the NFC North is going to be a tough football division. There's going to be some fantastic plays out of here. This should be one of the better divisions, obviously barring injury. Bears, Vikings, Packers, and the Lions, all of them you can make an argument for or a case for them being potential playoff teams and potential competitive teams. So this is going to be a really tough division. I give the Detroit Lions a B. They brought back Marcus Davenport. They brought back Tim Patrick. But their signings, especially in the secondary, bringing in DJ Reed was a solid signing for him to play opposite of Terrion Arnold. You brought in Rocky Sin and Avonte Maddox. This team had a ton of injuries last year. Rocky Sin can play outside or inside. Avonte Maddox is primarily a slot, but they're putting more veteran bodies in this secondary. This secondary had a lot of injuries last year. A lot of injuries last year. They're still going to be able to run the ball with Sonic and Knuckles. Jared Goff is still a good quarterback. He's still efficient. Their wide receiver core is intact. Their offensive line is intact. The only real change was they have a new offensive coordinator. How creative will they still be? How aggressive will they still be? I think they'll still be aggressive because that's more of a Dan Campbell thing. But I'm not sure how fast they can get clicking offensively and defensively. Next up, we have the NFC East, where this has just been a crazy offseason. Like always, you still have some teams like the Cowboys needing to sign players that Micah, at the time of this video, he has not signed. The Eagles lost players. The Commanders added players. The Giants, now maybe they have a quarterback or two. We'll see, but I still do not see two of these teams being competitive, and that's the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. There's probably going to be rebuilding in New York soon. But first up, we got the Cowboys who went all in last year. Injuries and the fact that all in was not a good roster. Saw a 10-7 record, not a lot of firepower on offense outside of CeeDee Lamb. They still really don't have any offensive firepower outside of CeeDee Lamb. They lost Rico Dowdle, after he was coming along last season. Zach Martin retired. I saw reports. I don't believe that this was true, and it was said that it's not. But there was even talks that they were possibly going to trade Dak to the Browns, I guess, so they could try to get Shador. Probably wanted to just trolls on the social media. But their quarterback is coming off an injury, putting him behind a questionable offensive line, which is what they have. They still haven't signed Michael Parsons, which is crazy, but they do have 10 draft picks, so they should be able to get some bodies into this. They have enough draft capital to maneuver the draft and to go out and try to get more star players. Maybe offensively, it should be offensively. The defense is going to need some bodies on it as well. But Dallas, will see how all in they are this year. I give Dallas a D. They started off their free agency by signing D-line Osa Odighizuwa to a big deal. They brought back Kevontae Turpin. Those are really like their only two big signings, if you will. They took a few chances on a couple of first-round picks, prior first-round draft picks, with Peyton Turner at edge, Kenneth Murray at linebacker, and Kyer Elam at corner. Not sure what any of them are really going to be able to do. Murray's probably more of a insurance policy because the kid from Texas overshown tore his ACL. Kyer Elam, more of a draft stock. He was a first-round pick. Let's see if we can find something for him. He just hasn't really panned out in Buffalo. And Peyton Turner, bringing him in, you did lose DeMarcus Lawrence. So you do need bodies, but how good of a player is he really? They did bring in Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams for the rushing attack, but they don't have a solid offensive line anymore. This team has so many holes on it now. This is not a good roster. Even adding these players in free agency, this is still not a good roster. Dallas gets a D for me. Next up, we have the New York Giants, who went into the offseason needing a quarterback, amongst other things. They tried their best to trade for Matthew Stafford, hired his brother-in-law, but it just didn't work out. Russell Wilson was brought in for a visit. They were said to have Aaron Rodgers as well on the brain. This team here is not going to draft a young quarterback if it's on the GM and the coach. They're going to need a veteran quarterback. They did go out and get their veteran quarterback. They were trying to swing at any and everything that they could to try and keep their jobs. They have a good defense, a good solid defense. Your only true weapon, just like in Dallas, is Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy was coming along. You'll see how he goes, but their offensive line is shaky at best. You do have Andrew Thomas, who's a solid left tackle, but overall, this is not a good offensively team. This is not a good offensive team, but they do have the third overall pick. They have an opportunity to take possibly Travis Hunter, possibly Abdul Carter. We'll see where they go there, but the New York Giants have not had the greatest luck since Eli Manning has retired. I give the Giants a D as well. They brought back Tommy DeVito early in free agency because they didn't know what they were going to have or if they were going to have anybody at quarterback. They brought back Darius Slayton so many years after he wanted a new contract. They were finally able to give him one after he tested free agency. But they brought in quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Russell is expected to be the day one starter, which is why I don't envision them drafting Shador Sanders, especially at 3. If he's there, I don't anticipate them drafting him at 3. I do like the pickups of Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo with Tyler Nubin, Drew Phillips. That gives you some solid players in that secondary, as well as they have Deontay Banks, so you can have Banks and Adebo outside with Phillips in the slot. They have Tyler Newman and Javon Holland, so your secondary is solid. They have solid pass rush. This defense is a really good defensive team and a defensive unit. They just have to have that guy at quarterback that can lead them somewhere. And I don't think Russ, I don't think Jameis, I don't think Shador, I don't think Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, whoever they have, I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl. So this coach and this GM, 9 times out of 10, this is their last year. So, like, what were they really going to be able to do? This is the past two off seasons. The Giants have really fumbled themselves, fumbled their future, letting Saquon walk, watching him win a Super Bowl, and then cutting the quarterback that you kept to get rid of Saquon. So I mean, it's just not to mention that the owner has already said that he's pretty much that the GM and the head coach are on thin ice. Like he doesn't have patience with them. They need to start winning. That doesn't say rookie. That doesn't say rookie quarterback. If they need to start winning and start winning now. Next up, we got the Washington Commanders, who went to the NFC Championship game where Jaden Daniels was the only one who looked like he was ready to play. He played above and beyond any expectation that people had of him as a rookie. Bobby Wagner held down the leadership role on this defense. He knows Dan Quinn's defense like the back of his hand. And we saw an emergence from Scary Terry. We already knew what he was, but now with consistent quarterback play, we were able to see Scary Terry truly take off. So I really like the Washington Commanders team. I like their culture that they're building, especially after getting rid of Dan Snyder. They had 5 turnovers in the Eagles game. They got dog walked, but so did the Chiefs against them. So, I mean, that doesn't really matter. But they're truly building around Jaden Daniels. Again, this is a team that had a plan. They're going to build around Jaden Daniels, and they executed said plan. That's why I give Washington an A. They brought back Zach Ertz. That was Jaden's security blanket. They brought back Bobby Wagner defensively to keep the culture going, to keep the effort going, to keep the leadership going on the defensive side. But the 2 biggest trades they made were bringing in wide receiver Deebo Samuel, who might not be the Deebo he was 2, 3, 4 years ago. But with this team and with this quarterback, he is able to bring an intensity and a mindset to the offensive side about being physical. As is Laramie Tunsil, who they traded with the Houston Texans and brought in to protect Jaden Daniels' blind side. Jaden was running for his life last year, but now they have probably the best left tackle they've had since Trent Williams has left. But Laramie Tunsil, they gave up some draft picks. potentially some solid draft capital. However, they are going to build around their quarterback. They were already at the NFC Championship game. They're in position to trade back and recoup some of those draft picks that they traded away, which would even which would make their off season as a whole even the better, especially if they're hitting in the NFL draft. Like I said, overall though, I got to give the Commanders an A. I really, really, really enjoyed some of their moves this free agency, bringing in and making sure you have your leaders, keeping your core while getting younger, while building around your young quarterback, getting some veteran players to consistently keep him where he is and to help him grow even the more. I really like what the Commanders are doing. Lastly, for the NFC, we have the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champs. They are this team, this roster is so deep. They're so talented. They can beat you a number of different ways offensively and defensively. They are completely aggressive. They are nasty. They are physical, and they dominate. Loved watching this team play last year. Now, they did release Darius Slay. They traded away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Brandon Graham retired. They lost Josh Sweat. They lost Milton Williams. Mekhi Becton left in free agency. There's talks about possibly trading Dallas Goedert. So that sounds like a lot, but this roster was so deep that they still have players that can be filled. And they have, I think, 26, I believe 26 draft picks over the next two drafts. This team is going to continue to build. The rich is going to get richer in Philly. I give Philly a B. They started off their offseason by re-signing linebacker Zach Bond, who had a hell of a year for them after coming over from the Saints on a one-year deal and was a defensive player of the year candidate. Bringing in Azeez Ojulari weakens the Giants' rush, strengthens your pass rush after losing Josh Sweat, as does bringing in Josh Uche. Now you have some more bodies that you can rotate in with Nolan Smith. They still have Bryce Huff, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. They're going to be able to get going again defensively. And Adoree Jackson is a veteran corner who can help play second fiddle to Quinyon Mitchell, allowing Cooper DeJean to play and continue to play in the slot, and how he had a hell of a year last year as a rookie. Adoree Jackson is coming in as a third corner to really be able to ensure that the two young guys are still able to play in the roles that they did, solidifying that secondary. I give the Eagles, a B. They really, really, really are killing it this offseason, even after losing some of the players that they lost. They also brought in Thompson Robinson. They traded away Kenny Pickett to the Browns for. So, I mean, this is just a really, really solid team. They're going to kill the draft too, because they always seem to, the rich is going to continue to get richer with Philly. Next up, we have the AFC South. The AFC South. This is just becoming harder and harder and harder to watch this division. Sometimes it's laughable how bad this division looks as a whole. The Houston Texans, they won the division for a second year. Indianapolis dropped the ball for a second year. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence still isn't showing up. And Tennessee has just been Tennessee. They don't know what they want to do. And Will Levis had so many boneheaded plays last year. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. First up, we got the Houston Texans, who, like I said, they won the AFC South for a second year in a row. They also got bounced by the Kansas City Chiefs for the second year in a row. C.J. Stroud struggled at times, but they had so many injuries. Stephon Diggs tore his ACL. Nico Collins had a few games where he was out, and then Tank Dell had another gruesome leg injury. Hopefully his career is okay. Not sure if he'll ever be the player that he was with some of the injuries that he has sustained, especially lower extremity injuries. it has just been really, 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 really tough. The offensive line was not good last year, and they traded away Laramie Tunsil, who was their best offensive lineman. Um, they were still able to win 10 games with a bad offensive line, but not sure how you're going to look now that the one person that you knew, the one position that you knew that was good, he had some holding calls last year, but now what are we going to do? But they did get a nice little draft haul of picks, so you should be able to build around CJ, but they're gonna have to take full advantage because that contract is coming fast. And Josh Allen signed a $300 million deal, and you know the quarterbacks are the only position that always one up the next. Overall, I give the Texans a C. They literally have rebuilt their offensive line. They trade and pick up Ed Ingram. They signed Lincoln Tomlinson for them to be their starting guards. Cam Robinson is going to replace Laramie Tunsil, and then you have Trent Brown, who's going to be on the right side. They did trade for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's going to bring a nice, physical, nasty mentality to this defense, who should fit in perfectly with Coach D'Amico Ryans and what they like to do defensively. But overall, I give them a C. This wasn't a real good free agency class, and I started to give them an F when I saw the Tunsil trade, but now when you look at it, they did bring in a whole new offensive line. Trent Brown is a solid player. All of them are solid. How fast are they going to mesh is going to be the question. But you still have Joe Mixon in the backfield as well, so you're able to run the ball with this team. But I have to give them a C. Jacksonville Jaguars, they have ushered in a new head coach, and Coach Liam Cohen. He's coming over from Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's supposed to be able to figure out what he can do with his franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. He really hasn't lived up to the billing of being a franchise quarterback, and he's on his second contract, and we're always talking about potential still with Trevor Lawrence. So we're not really sure that he'll be able to maximize that potential, but they have a few weapons in order to do so. Primarily Brian Thomas Jr. He lit the world up last year. Cohen's going to have to make sure that they're able to feed him the football. Overall, I give the Jags a C. They're going to try to protect Trevor. They brought in Patrick McCarry from the Ravens. Center Robert Hainsey follows Cohen from the Bucks. Jordan Davis is going to man the slot. They still need a second corner to play opposite of Tyson Campbell. They're going to need a tight end after releasing Evan Ingram. Defensive tackle, corner, like I said. There's still a lot of holes in this roster. The quarterback has to live up to what he is. For this team to be able to do anything, this was a playoff team with Blake Bortles. Like, let's just think about it. This was a playoff team with Blake Bortles. Now you have the true star quarterback, and you're not being able to truly build around him because of the contract. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans, who hold the number one pick in the draft. That pretty much tells you how the season went. Will Levis made some game-sealing bonehead plays a couple of times. There's just not a lot of excitement around this team. And this team seems like they're still rebuilding. Not even sure how long this head coach will be there because it just seems so uninterested watching the Tennessee Titans play football. And they have some solid pieces on their roster. This is a really good roster. That quarterback position has to be it. I give them a C. They did bring in some moves. They didn't make any huge moves. Signing Dan Moore Jr. to a big deal from the Steelers, not sure how smart of a move it was. Again, this was not a deep free agency class, but you do a lot. That move allows you to slide J.C. Latham back to his natural right tackle position, and Kevin Zeitler. So you do have a solid offensive line. You still have Tony Pollard, possibly being able to get him on track and running. Everything to me says that they're going to draft Cam Ward because of the moves that they made. I still don't believe that Cam is going to push them to the playoffs, especially in his first season. The Titans have to get a seed. They had an average free agency, but they have an average roster offensively. This team has some defensive pieces. The offensive line is starting to seem like they're going to be on the right track, being able to run the ball, seeing how well they are able to protect Cam Ward, because, like I said, I believe that's going to be the pick. Next up, we have the Indianapolis Colts, who had some question marks following the season. Anthony Richardson, the biggest one was him taking himself out of the football game. Inconsistency and his lack of experience, which the Colts knew. They knew this when the kid was drafted. They had Joe Flacco behind him. They never had a veteran who could do similar things to him, as he could behind him to truly help him grow. And watching Pat McAfee and all that, it just seemed like there was a lot of nonsense in this building as well. Not sure if it's the coach, not sure if it was the defensive coordinator, not sure if it's the GM, or if it's just the atmosphere like it is with the Cowboys. But Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, they're both returning, and we have brought in Lou Anarumo as the new defensive coordinator, who has had mixed results with the Bengals. But the Colts are hoping that he can be the top side of what he was with the Bengals. There was talks about bringing in competition for Anthony Richardson. It's needed. Football is a sport that competition is going to breed and get the best out of you. You can't get complacent with this, and it seems that Richardson has already done that as such a young quarterback with such small sample size of game experience. I just don't understand that. But overall, I give the Colts a B, which bothers me because I like the fact they were actually spending money. I love the pickup of Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum playing with Nick Cross. You still have Jalen Jones, Juju Brents, Kenny Moore. Your secondary now has more bodies. You also brought in Corey Ballantyne, who can play as a depth player, as a cornerback, but he's a special team ace. Neville Gallimore, you have Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner getting up there in age. Khalil Herbert should be a solid number 2 back, depth piece at most. But the one thing that I don't understand is signing Daniel Jones. Last year, Anthony Richardson sucked. Every year Daniel Jones has been in the NFL, he has sucked. His best season with Brian Daboll, he had 15 touchdowns thrown. As a NFL quarterback, in today's day and age where quarterbacks are getting 25 plus, he had 15 touchdowns. We brought him in. There's no way that these guys on this roster are amped about who we have under center. And if Anthony Richardson can't beat out Daniel Jones, this team is going to suck. This team is going to suck, and I'm a Colts fan. This really bothers me. We didn't protect Andrew Luck, but that has been how many years ago now since he's been gone? All the Band-Aid fixes out of all the players to go for, you went for Anthony Richardson because of his tangible things, his size, his 40. He could throw the ball far, but he didn't have experience. We've done nothing to ensure that he has experience. We've done nothing to ensure that he has competent vet behind him to push him. I would have loved to see Jameis Winston brought in for $4 million a year to play and compete, because he would have pushed Richardson. He could help Richardson. It was talks that Irsay loved Russell Wilson was going to draft him the same year they drafted Andrew Luck. Russell Wilson could have came in. Maybe who he is and how he is, he wanted to be in a bigger market like New York anyway. But I just think there was other players who could have brought in competition. And when you have a good, healthy competition, it's going to breed it everywhere else on your roster. Your defense is going to see it. Your offense is going to see it. Your line is going to see it. There's already questions about Anthony because he pulled himself out the game. So that instantly, is he tough? All this stuff, man. The Colts, they get a B because they're finally spending money. But that's the one pickup I do not like from the Indianapolis Colts, the Daniel Jones pickup. We have up next the AFC West, where this year there was 3 playoff teams from the AFC West. Kansas City made their 3rd consecutive Super Bowl, but they did in fact lose. They have questions. The Raiders brought in a new head coach. They have questions. The Chargers have questions. the Broncos have questions. Overall, each roster has a few questions, some more than others, but the main questions hitting the AFC West now are the other three teams able to finally knock off the Kansas City Chiefs? Speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, like I said, they had a tough outing in the Super Bowl. They have the best quarterback in the game, but it means nothing if he isn't protected. And then they started off the offseason by trading away Joe Thuney, who was able to step out and kick out outside to help protect Patrick Mahomes. So that was a big question mark. They've added bodies throughout the draft to the offensive line, but trading away Joe Thuney, your best offensive line, your most versatile offensive line, was really, really questionable. Travis Kelce contemplated retirement this year, so you're going to have to possibly think about life without him. What are we able to do? And I think this year that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to try to have the biggest swing that they can by being electric, not just winning close games. I don't think that they're going to be able to win that many close games again this year. Overall, I give the Chiefs a C. They managed to bring back some key pieces, starting by tagging Trey Smith. They were able to extend linebacker Nick Bolton. Both those moves are necessary. Bolton's been one of the best defensive players on this team since he's been drafted out of Missouri. Um, they brought back Kareem Hunt, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Charles Omenihu, who I started the season suspended last year. Trey Smith is going to be able to still open up rushing lanes. He's going to be able to help protect with Creed Humphrey on the inside. They brought and signed Elijah Mitchell from the 49ers as well as Jalen Moore. They only put him on a 2-year deal, which isn't that bad, but to think that he's going to be the second coming to Trent Williams at left tackle because he played behind him is a stretch. He played well in spot duty. Haven't seen him start a full season going from week 1 to week 18 to see. So we'll have to see how that goes. Hollywood Brown dealt with some injuries last year. He didn't really get to truly showcase what he could be in this offense. He showed a little bit of it in the playoffs, but he had a lingering injury. So he's on another 1-year deal, I believe. But him and Xavier Worthy are really going to showcase their speed this year. They're going to try to be explosive, especially with those deep crossers that they used to kill with Tyreek Hill. I really think the Chiefs are going to try to showcase what they can be down the field to help open up the rushing attack for Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, and now Elijah Mitchell. Overall, though, like I said, I give them a C. They're going to have to find a replacement for Travis Kelce's future, especially. The defense has played well over the years. Weapons have been added offensively, but you can no longer not protect Patrick Mahomes. You have got to protect Patrick Mahomes. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos, who had a shocking season led by rookie Bo Nix. This was a playoff team. Nix was able to get the Broncos to the playoffs, and they hope to build off that. Getting after Patrick Mahomes is going to be the topic for each team in the AFC West. That's the first thing we have to do. We have to go and get after Patrick Mahomes. Are they going to be able to dethrone this Chiefs team? Sean Payton has a good rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, so they're going to be able to build around. They have one of the, if not the best corner in all of football in Patrick Surtain, and they have some solid offensive weapons as well. The Broncos get a C from me for their free agency grade. They brought in tight end Evan Ingram, who was a security blanket for Bo Nix. They brought in Drake Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga from the 49ers, linebacker and safety. Both players have dealt with injuries, but both players, when on the field, are lightning. They are infectious. They are going to have this team playing even more physical on the defensive side of the ball. You have Surtain, who's going to lock down one side of the football field. Now you have Drake Greenlaw at linebacker, Hufanga back there in that secondary as well, Riley Cooper, who can play in the slot or out wide. This team defensively is really, really good. They're going to continue to try to add more around Bo Nix. But right now, again, this was not a strong free agency class, so I'm giving the Broncos a C. We have the LA Chargers up next, who headed into free agency wanting to give Justin Herbert a number one wide receiver, and they swung and missed. They missed on DK Metcalf. I believe that was their prized possession going into free agency. That's who they truly wanted. Amari Cooper is the only real true veteran out there now, unless they want to bring back Keenan Allen again. Joey Bosa was released. Stephon Diggs just signed with the Patriots, so he won't be an option as well. Overall, I give the Chargers a C. Their biggest re-sign was bringing back Khalil Mack. I do really like the pickup of Mekhi Becton, who's probably going to play guard, and Najee Harris. This team was able to run the ball last year. Now you've got one of the biggest aggressive guards in football, and Najee Harris is more of a slept-on running back. Each year with this Pittsburgh Steelers, he was able to put up 1,000 yards behind a shaky offensive line and truly no offensive identity. I like the pickup of Dante Jackson at corner, but they bringing back Mike Williams just to give Herbert a player that he's played with, has some continuity and chemistry with, but he's no true number one, not like what he once was, and I think he may have always been a number two. But overall, the Chargers get a C. Lastly, for the AFC West, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who they started their offseason bringing in Pete Carroll, who is a culture builder. He is a program builder. He can lead men. He knows how to connect with these guys. He's going to be physical. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to run the ball. They're going to lock you down defensively, and they're going to get after your quarterback. But he has his work cut out for him with the Raiders. They went into free agency needing a quarterback. They need a number one wide receiver. Brock Bowers is their number one pass catcher right now. He's a tight end, but he showed what he's able to be. They extended Max Crosby, and they're going to continue to build their defense and culture around him. So you got to ensure that you have your best players ready and willing to be a part of this. Pete Carroll has Crosby on board with a new deal. But overall, I give the Raiders a C. I like them bringing in Max Crosby or re-signing Max Crosby. Trading for Geno Smith was a shocker. They also signed Alex Kappa to protect Geno. They brought in Raheem Mostert, who's going to give you a dynamic running back. He is fast. He can get the ball and go 60 fast. Eric Stokes at corner and Jeremy Chin, nice, decent pieces. Stokes, a former first-round pick. Jeremy Chin played well last year with the Commanders, but had ups and downs in his career with the Carolina Panthers. But for free agency, I got to give the Raiders a C. I don't think they made enough moves, and they don't have a number one wide receiver. We'll see where they go with the draft, but right now, as constructed, this team's not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Next up, we have the AFC North, which, again, we had a ton of moves here. Started off with Myles Garrett wasn't traded. Started off with Trey Hendricks being able to seek trades. This is a physical division. The Ravens didn't have so many holes. The Steelers have more holes than just quarterback, but quarterback seems to be their focus. The Bengals have holes all over their defense after what they were able to do offensively. And the Browns are still in that Deshaun Watson debacle. So first up, we have the Ravens, who had a good season, but they fell short in the playoffs. And this is a trend that seems to keep happening with them. They brought in Derrick Henry, who was supposed to change that, but they didn't run the ball like they should have. Lamar had a historic year and could have won his third MVP, but the team didn't have a lot of holes, like I said, heading into the free agency. They should be in good shape, especially in the draft and moving forward. They are going to have to run the ball. Use Derrick Henry up, just like they used to use Jamal Lewis up. Let that big battering ram go and wear a defense down. They did not make a lot of moves, but I like the moves that they made. Bringing back Ronnie Stanley before free agency started, bringing back starting guard Ben Cleveland, and bringing back your fullback Patrick Ricard, who is an enormous man, who is should be plowing ahead, leading holes for Derrick Henry. I like bringing in Cooper Rush, and the DeAndre Hopkins pickup is more of a veteran leadership role. I don't think he's going to have a crazy year with them, but he should be able to be a red zone threat and a nice possession receiver for Lamar Jackson. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I don't know what is going on with Pittsburgh. Last year they had two quarterbacks. Now they have no quarterbacks. Russ and Justin are both in New York with the Jets and the Giants. The reports is that they're willing to wait on Aaron Rodgers. And the reports from Aaron Rodgers' side of it is he wants to play with Minnesota. He wants to be in Minnesota. What the hell are you going to do, Pittsburgh? Your defense is not the defense that has normally been. You haven't traded any of those players. You held on to Big Ben a lot longer than you needed to, and you never really had a succession plan. We're still here. We're still here. Mason Rudolph is not going to be your guy moving forward. Aaron Rodgers is not your guy. For the wide receivers that you have, Aaron Rodgers is not the quarterback for them. Maybe they trade for Kirk Cousins. Maybe they trade up in the draft, but they already don't have a lot of draft picks because of some of the free agency moves they made. I have to give the Steelers an F. And it sucks because I love the pickup of DK Metcalf. Having DK on one side and George Pickens on the other side gives you two big physical speed guys who can be 50-50 killers, can block when they want to, because George Pickens doesn't always want to. The thing that makes me hate the fact that you went and got DK is now you don't even have a quarterback. It made sense to pair DK and Russ together. They played together in Seattle. But you dicked around Russ so much with the Aaron Rodgers nonsense that he was gone. Justin Fields, I understand letting him be gone and guys being split. It was reported that Tomlin and Arthur Smith were split between Russ and Justin. So I understand that. Waiting on Aaron Rodgers, who is not Aaron Rodgers of old, who's just an old Aaron Rodgers, he's not getting you to the Super Bowl. The best case scenario is he plays good enough for you to continue Mike Tomlin's streak of not having a losing season, and you're not in position next year to get a good rookie quarterback. They brought in Darius Slay and Juan Thornhill to help beef up your secondary with some older players, but both are Super Bowl champions. Darius should be able to play the number 2 corner opposite of Joey Porter. Juan should be able to be a nice safety addition next to Minkah Fitzpatrick. But overall, waiting on Aaron Rodgers is going to kill this team, even if he comes in. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, who were able to sign T. Higgins after tagging him, and they were able to sign Jamar Chase to enormous deals. They started off tagging him and started off tagging T. Higgins and telling Trey Hendricks that he could seek a trade. Started off free agency, not the best foot forward. And if you go heavy offensively, what's your defense going to look like? Overall, I give the Bengals a C. They kept their offensive core together. They kept Jamar Chase. They kept T. Higgins, and they kept Mike Gesicki. That's what Joe Burrow wanted. He also wants to keep Trey Hendricks. Talks have been put on hold. It was reported that a couple teams have met Trey Hendrickson's contract demands, but have not met the Bengals' trade demands. So right now, Hendrickson is prepared and ready to sit out the season, which does not bode well for the Cincinnati Bengals defensively. We saw Joe and Jamar tear this league up last year. Jamar was a Triple Crown winner. Joe could have been an MVP had they have won games. They're putting up 30 and they're giving up 38. It's just not a good team, especially on the defensive side. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns, who started their offseason with their star pass rusher requesting a trade and demanding and saying that he was not going to be a Brown. He did not want to be a Brown. but then he got $40 million a year. The Deshaun Watson's not going to play because he tore his Achilles for a second time. He most likely is not going to play another down in football. But the Browns are still in cap situation because of that contract with Deshaun Watson. Overall, I got to give the Browns a D. They still don't have a quarterback. Offensive line is shaky. They did bring back or extend Myles Garrett. Trading for Kenny Pickett. Not sure if Stefanski feels that he's able to be his guy and truly run his offense. We will see. We'll see what they do in the draft. It's been up and down on reports of wanting Shador or not wanting Shador. I honestly think that they should take Abdul Carter and pair him with Myles Garrett and have one of the best pass rushing combos in all of football. Coach Stefanski, who is a former coach of the year, he's got his work cut out for him. And lastly, we have the AFC East. I'm just going to dive directly into it. First up, we have the Buffalo Bills, who came off the season witnessing and watching their quarterback become the NFL MVP. They were able to give him $300 million because of that with a contract extension. They extended Greg Rousseau and Khalil Shakir. They released Von Miller. The questions about the Bills were their secondary. They had so many missed tackles from their safeties. Rasul Douglas is a free agent. We're not sure what's going to happen with Matt Milano and his health because he's had and dealt with so many injuries. So we're just going to have to see. And this team could still use a number one wide receiver. And their number one running back, James Cook, is in contract negotiation stalemate, if you will, with the ownership or the GMs. Overall, I got to give the Bills a C. They didn't really make any true big moves outside of their extensions. Bringing in Josh Palmer, I like that. It seems that they're going to continue on the trend of wide receiver by committee and just let Josh throw the ball to the open guy. Not sure that I like the Joey Bosa move because he's dealt with so many injuries. I thought possibly he would be playing with his brother in San Francisco, but he's only on a one-year deal. I don't think he will play every single game. History just shows us and tells us that that's not going to be the case. But overall, I got to give the Bills a C. I don't see them roster-wise as a Super Bowl contending team. I really don't. And I love Josh Allen. I think a lot of people think they will be because of Josh Allen. But he cannot do it all on his own. Next up, we have the New York Jets, who started their offseason by bringing in another head coach, Aaron Glenn, fantastic defensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions, who was also a first-round pick of the New York Jets. I believe they're going to give Aaron Glenn his full 5 years of his contract to truly build this team. I think talking with Aaron Glenn, seeing how Dan Campbell did it, seeing how they let their coaches coach, and seeing how they're all about the culture, he already said it when he came in. They're going to be physical. He didn't want none of the nonsense, so they addressed the Aaron Rodgers stuff as soon as he could. Aaron Rodgers was released. This team is going to get after you, and if he's able to get out of it, probably a more talented player-by-player defense with the New York Jets, with what he was able to get out of that Detroit Lions team and all the injuries that they had on that defense, where he was still able to make these guys or get these guys off the couch playing their asses off for him, the Jets are in good hands. But I give the Jets a C. Again, this was not a great free agency class. Brandon Stevens is a good signing at corner, but he got beat a lot last year. I don't really love it. Andre Cisco is a safety from Jacksonville that I actually like. I actually like him paired with Aaron Glenn. You know what sauce is going to get you. They brought back Jamie Sherwood and Isaiah Oliver. Justin Fields is going to be their quarterback moving forward. He's got some players around him with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, a player that he played with in college, a player who respects him as a quarterback, who should be able to help alleviate any of the tension, especially from that New York media market. But Justin should be able to be okay, and it's more of a 1 year deal. But he knows he's going into the season as a starter. They should be able to put even more weapons around him in the draft. I believe they have the seventh pick. That could be a great pickup and a great landing spot for Tyler Warren, the dual tight end from Penn State. Overall, you got to give the Jets a C. They're being calculated with their moves, and they are going to have the culture and the identity first. So they might not have a lot of wins this year, but this season for the New York Jets is going to be about building a better culture. Next up, we have the New England Patriots, who are going in to consecutive seasons with new head coaches, and both of them who played for Coach Bill Belichick. The difference is Mike Vrabel is a really good football coach, a really good head football coach. He has experience as a head football coach. He's been a playoff head football coach. He's beaten Bill Belichick sometimes at his own game with his nuance and his knowledge of the game, the rules that are written in small print. Mike Vrabel knows them. They have a talented quarterback. They have the most money to spend. They have a top 5 draft pick. The Patriots are in prime position to go from worse. I won't say the first because the Bills are still there, but with questions about New York rebuilding, the questions about Miami and their health, the Patriots could potentially be a playoff team if they are able to get after it defensively. We know that Vrabel's going to run the ball. He's going to play good defense. He'll hit you over the head with a deep pass from time to time. Drake May's an athletic quarterback similar to Ryan Tannehill, what he had in in Tennessee. So we'll see how everything goes, but I like the pickup of Vrabel for this team. I give the Patriots a B. They had the most money to spend, and they put it to use. They brought back Austin Hooper, giving your young quarterback a pass-catching tight end. But defense is where they crushed it, bringing in Milt Williams from the Eagles, Carlton Davis from the Lions, Harold Landry, who played with Vrabel. Vrabel drafted him from the Titans. They were able to bring him in. He had his best season under Mike Vrabel. The Joshua Dobbs pickup is a pickup that I really love. You have a freaking scientist on your offense, on your team, who's able to help and talk to and break down what Drake May has seen, helping him watching film, helping him become more and more of a pro. And then they brought in Stephon Diggs, who should be a solid pickup for them as well. He should be a really good third down possession wide receiver. He is able to get you to the sticks and make those tough catches. Lastly, we have the Miami Dolphins, who going into free agency, they didn't have a lot of cap space, and their biggest question was the comments about Tyreek Hill possibly not wanting to be there and possibly wanting out. It seems that has been smoothed over, but we still have the lingering issue of health for quarterback Tua. You got to try to protect him from himself and from the actual team, like as you would protect any other quarterback. But the concussion things, they're just too many, too often. Miami has so much promise. They're not known as a physical team. They don't beat the playoff teams. This is just going to be really, really, really tough outing this season, especially if Tua gets hurt. Overall, though, I have to give them a D. They didn't do a lot. They brought in a guard, James Daniels, who should start. Brought back Tyrell Dotson and bringing in Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's going to end up being your starter at one point in time in a game because we've seen what history shows us with Tua. I don't know that this team, roster-wise, is aggressive enough, physical enough, or just flat out good enough to truly compete. That's all my grades, guys, for all the free agency, all 32 teams. I appreciate it. Again, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, comment. I've been seeing some of the comments. I've been chatting on some of the mock drafts with some of the people, man. I really love the interaction. I appreciate everything that y'all do, man. Y'all have a good one.